Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, should Tucson be allowed to destroy seized guns instead of selling them? We'll debate the issue in advance of a Supreme Court hearing. And we'll hear arguments for and against a balanced budget amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Governor Doug Ducey is in Washington at the National Governors Association meeting. Ducey addressed his fellow governors on the American Civics Act, which requires students to pass a 100-question civics test to graduate from high school.
We're back here as governors in the nation's capital in a divided country with incredibly brutal debate, and what we'd like to see is more civil, respectful, and healthy debate that can build consensus and move the country in the right direction. What I'd like to see is a more limited government, more fiscal responsibility, see our economy improve with policies of personal responsibility, and the American Civics Act gives you the foundation in which to make those arguments and points from a principled perspective.
Arizona is the first state to require a high school civics test for graduation. The Arizona Supreme Court tomorrow will hear arguments on a new law that allows the state to withhold funds from cities if those cities enact ordinances that conflict with state law. Attorney General Mark Brnovich filed the complaint against Tucson, claiming that the city is illegally destroying seized guns instead of selling them as required by state law. Joining us now to debate the merits of the law is Ken Strobeck, Executive Director of the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and State Senator John Kavanagh, who introduced the original bill. You senator or you representative?
I'm currently a senator.
You're currently a senator. All right, I want to make sure.
It goes back and forth.
Okay. Let's talk about what exactly the Supreme Court will be looking at here.
Well, the Supreme Court asked both the Attorney General and the City of Tucson and the League as an amicus to answer 6 questions. It's not exactly directly related to that complaint that you were talking about Tucson, but it has more to do with, is this law constitutional? Does it give any discretion to the Attorney General? Is it discretionary for the court to accept the case, et cetera? So it's a little unusual to have this kind of out of sequence argument before the Supreme Court.
What do you see the court hearing tomorrow?
Well, we have 2 issues here. The bottom issue is Tucson violating the law by destroying the guns? Because state law says you have to give them to gun dealers to resell. And if in fact they are violating state law, and that has to do with preemption, which is somewhat complicated, if they are, the next question is the remedy which the state passed, which is 1487, which says if in fact a city or town is violating the law and they're told to stop and they don't, they lose state shared revenue. So those are the 2 issues. Right now I think the Supreme Court is in kind of a preliminary hearing stage, but they'll eventually get to the meat of both those issues.
And again, as far as, I know that this, from the League of Cities and Towns, you're really looking at this idea of taking shared funds and these sorts of things and charter status for cities. I want to get to those in a second. But at its core here, was Tucson not destroying guns instead of selling them?
Well, they were, and they believe that they have that authority under the Constitution of the state of Arizona, which creates charter cities, which the principle of charter cities is that they are as independent of the legislature as possible when it comes to matters of local control. They passed this ordinance well before the state law came into effect. They believe they have the authority under their charter to deal with these matters locally, not to have the state preempt them. And in the past, we've always had this provision that if somebody disagrees with a state law, you sue them, you take them to court. What this law does is short circuit that and say if one legislator makes a complaint to the Attorney General investigates, and the Attorney General issues their opinion, and that is what results in the loss of shared revenue.
And again, does the state have that kind of authority over a charter city?
I believe so. Look, in the beginning, the state was totally overpowering of cities and towns. But the founders of Arizona put in the Constitution that certain cities, larger cities, at the time 3,500, but we're going back a long time, that they, if there were charter cities, if they passed a charter and their voters approved it, on local matters, they could go their own way. But the Constitution is still quite clear. If it is a statewide matter or an area which the state is concerned about, or if it's a shared concern, then a charter city cannot preempt state law.
How is destroying and or selling guns a state concern as opposed to a city concern?
Well, almost everything is a state concern. If you look at the history of the court rulings, and unfortunately the Supreme Court has not come out with a rule. They look at these things on a case-by-case basis. And if you look at the areas where they've ruled statewide concern for charter cities, regulation of highways, liquor licensing, public health, budgeting, ambulances, law enforcement payment and pensions of local police, taxation, zoning, the setting of election dates, and even more. In fact, only a couple of areas like city advertising and city land sales have they said is a matter of local concern.
Almost everything is under state control. You agree with that?
No, I don't. I think, again, we have to use the courts to define where that line is. And the original Constitution, the delegates there said that they wanted the charter provision to have cities be as independent of the legislature as possible when it came to the matters of local concern. The courts have said that local election dates, that Tucson's ward system, that those things are purely local concern, even though the state put laws out that said that this is a matter of statewide concern. They overruled that.
But not times of election. So even there, they deferred some to the state.
Well, the local elections are still occurring when the charter cities want to have them, not necessarily when the state law says that they have to have them.
I think the bottom point is there's a long, lengthy list of all of the things that have said it's the state. You only have local election issues other than time, the city advertising, and the actual sale of city property. So the question is, how will they rule with respect to the sale of guns?
Well, but this brings up the question, are all municipal actions under the control of state authority?
If, in fact, it is a town or a non-charter city, then yes, the state can, on anything, preempt them. For charter cities, the Constitution carves out areas of local concern only. However, if it's a shared concern or it's a state concern, or if the state has appropriated that area, which we have done for guns, then the Constitution, as we interpret it, says it's statewide and they must follow state law.
Are you buying that?
Many bills are introduced that say, we find this to be a matter of statewide concern. They do that just to inoculate this, whatever statute they're passing, from any challenge that comes from a charter city. But I think you have to go back again and look at what is the real purpose of charter cities. It is to make them independent, to have them decide matters at the local level rather than to have everything preempted, taken away at the state level. Even if it's a general law city, it's better to make local decisions at the local level.
Does charter status, though, kind of the same question I posed here, but sideways, does charter status protect all ordinances by charter cities?
No, it clearly doesn't. It says that those that are matters of local concern are protected. So there's always a disagreement about what is and what isn't, and we can argue about that. But this bill, 1487, is so heavy-handed and short-circuits the legal process. That's the biggest problem with 1487.
That's the cure. Here's the problem. You had cities like Bisbee on bags. You had
Plastic
basically
bags of all things.
Thumb their nose at state law. And we were pretty much powerless to stop them from breaking state law. We had no teeth in our preemption law. So the question was, how do we deal with it? And we figured a fair way is what we've done here. We have a legislator can say that this is a violation. The AG investigates it. If the AG determines that it is, it tells the city, you have 30 days to stop. If the city doesn't stop, then the state shared revenue is distributed to other cities and towns. Although the case can, of course, go, and there's an expedited Supreme Court hearing to decide whether or not they're preempted.
We should mention Tucson, I think it's $115 million some odd dollars as far as state shared revenue.
It's enormous. It's over 30% of the general fund would be penalized for this one little violation. Same with Bisbee, same with any other city that would be subject to this, this law. And 1487 short circuits the process by making the Attorney General the finder of fact and the imposer of penalty, which is completely inappropriate.
But the Supreme Court, the law says that if the municipality, if the charter city contests, there is an expedited Supreme Court ruling to decide this case. So what we're doing is there's a cure period, there's an expedited hearing. So rather than have these municipalities thumb their noses and nothing ever happens and they break the law, we now have a swift decision.
So when I say, or critics say, let's say critics are saying that this law basically is you're trying to coerce cities through financial actions, you say, yeah.
I say no. I say what we're trying to do is get this settled quickly, rather than
But
have
there
it
is
dragged
coercion
through the
involved
courts.
if you're using state
So
share
there's
revenue.
no coercion because there's a cure period, and the cure period, they can correct the violation and go forward. If they want to appeal it in court, then all they have to do is put a bond up for 6 months worth of state shared revenue, and the courts
Impossible.
decide.
That's impossible to do. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. They can't possibly do
No,
that.
a bond. They don't put the money up, they put a bond
Yes,
up.
but even putting up that portion that they have to do for a bond is financially impossible for cities to do. There's so much money involved. And Mr. Kavanaugh, in testimony, actually said this is to force municipalities to obey the law with the threat of withholding revenue. That was from your own
making
testimony.
people obey the law is a good thing. It's especially despicable to me when lawmakers at the municipal level, and I was there for 9 years, don't obey the law.
And they have an honest disagreement, again, about what is a matter of local concern. And in the case of Tucson, they said, look, we have a crime problem. We are seizing guns that are used in the commission of crimes, and their property is, their ordinance says they can destroy property. So they're destroying that property.
Well,
that's where the argument is with what is a local matter and what concerns the local decision makers.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court says.
It will indeed. Good discussion. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ted.
And coming up on Arizona Horizon, another debate, this one on whether or not Arizona should get behind an amendment requiring the federal government to have a balanced budget.
One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2.
I'm always searching to feel like I fit into something.
We are the people that we are because of our past.
It's complicated. They said we never make it this far. But
I'm just one of many who stopped being silent.
they said the fight would break us. The struggle up to make who we are.
It's just proof of how far we have come.
Who we are.
Make sure in all the hustle and bustle, we don't lose sight of why we're here.
It all boils down to communicating the lives we live.
If you look closely, they've got a story to tell.
It connects with you in a very deep way.
We wish you love, peace, and soul.
Come with us on this great adventure.
"28 states have passed resolutions asking for a constitutional convention to consider an amendment to the U.S. Constitution requiring that the federal government pass a balanced budget. Should Arizona join the call for a balanced budget amendment? Debating the issue is Professor David Super of Georgetown University Law Center and Nick Dranius, president of the Compact for America Educational Foundation. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. What exactly, the balanced budget amendment calls for a balanced budget, but there are other factors in here as well, correct?
Yes, the Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution does not provide for a single-purpose convention. So if we were to have a constitutional convention, everything else comes up for grabs. Religion, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, gun rights, anything else you want to name.
That's an initial concern anytime you're talking about a constitutional convention. Concern here?
Not at all, because the approach we're using at Compact for America is to have the states agree up front in a formal binding contract to everything that's going to happen. So none of the uncertainty that the professor's rightly concerned about applies.
Formal binding contract good enough, you think, as far as keeping the lid on this?
Not really, because it's not enforceable. The Supreme Court has said that what goes into the Constitution is a political question. They won't get involved. There's nothing in Article 5 that makes this binding.
Okay, let's say that this is the sole purpose and the sole focus of a convention. Why not a balanced budget amendment?
Because the federal government is responsible for managing the economy, and when there is a severe recession, as we had a few years ago, the federal government has its revenues go down and need for unemployment compensation and benefits like that go up. If the federal government has to raise taxes and cut benefits when people are already hurting, the recession gets worse.
Why would this be, an amendment to the Constitution? Really? Do we need that for
Absolutely.
a balance? But why?
Because the same reason you have a limit on your credit card. If you don't have some limit on debt, then it will be spent endlessly. And the way to think of a balanced budget amendment is it's protecting future generations who don't have a voice in any of the decisions being made right now.
That idea that fiscal responsibility will only happen if something like this is done, does that make sense to you?
It really doesn't. In the late 90s, we had several years of fairly substantial budget surpluses. Indeed, when President Bush took office, he and Vice President Cheney said that that was a concern and that we needed to reduce those surpluses to allow the federal government to better manage the economy.
So when people say the country really shouldn't be spending more than it takes in, you say?
Sometimes the government should be running a surplus when the economy is strong, but when the economy is weak, the government absolutely should be spending more than it takes in and make it up in better times later.
You buying that?
A well-designed balanced budget amendment like we have in HB 226 does just that. And what you do, though, is you need a limit on how much you can borrow. You can't have a limitless credit card. Otherwise, future generations get stuck with a bill.
The idea that maybe the process really isn't a problem, it's political will. I've heard that argued, that this is something that could get done if people wanted it to get done.
No,
and you're messing with the process.
The process is the problem. Look, the professor's looking at an outlier event. The 1990s once had a surplus, but if you look at the trend of events since the 1950s, we see nothing but exponential growth in the debt in nominal terms. I mean, currently the debt in real terms is bigger than the economy if you count all of the debt. So we're actually in a position where Greece was in 2007. So it's a system problem. And the problem with the system is that voiceless future generations are not as well represented by us as they would be representing themselves. And the way we can correct for that, since we don't have a time machine, is to say we have to limit our borrowing.
Systemic problem.
Not at all. Not at all. Everything we do today affects future generations. Our spending does, what we do to natural areas, any number of things. Our system in general has worked well to be responsible to future generations. They make changes as they see fit.
Let's talk about this generation. I've heard it argued that this would decrease interest rates, make it easier for folks, to big and small, to invest. Valid argument?
Not at all. Interest rates in general are pretty low right now, even though the federal government has been running very large deficits. The deficits are coming down as the economy improves, and that's as it should be.
I've also heard it argued that it would shrink trade deficits as well. Is that part of this debate at all?
It's not as much of the debate, but I got to go back to the future generations. Look, the reality is you're piling $20 trillion of debt on people who never had a vote on it. And unlike any other policy, this is a bond that's contractually binding. It's not like just changing a policy. You can't change it. You're saddling kids with debt.
But I think the professor has already mentioned this a couple of times. When you talk about binding something, you may have disasters, you may have recessions, depressions, the whole 9 yards, and you can't do anything about it because there's a constitutional amendment saying hands off.
Well, not if you read our amendment. Our amendment in HB 2226 gives you some wiggle room, some line of credit, but not a limitless line of credit. You see, you can't give people limitless credit cards. You certainly can't give elected officials limitless credit cards.
There is wiggle room, he says.
Well, yes. If you go to the states and get their permission, you can borrow more money. If we're attacked by Russia or China, waiting around for all the state legislatures to convene and authorize us to spend money to defend ourselves isn't much of a plan.
Respond to that,
Well, it's easy. Since he's figured out that could happen, then all you have to do is present that proposal before it happens.
I explained that. I didn't quite get that one.
If the concern is that you might need emergency borrowing, then what you do is you propose to the states an opportunity to approve a increase in debt for emergency borrowing.
Is that proposed already?
It's actually in the bill. It's HB 2226. The basic idea is that for any increase in a constitutional limit on borrowing, you have to get approval of a majority of state legislators.
I was going to ask about this. It also calls for, correct me if I'm wrong here, a 2/3 vote in the House and Senate for any tax or debt limit increase. Is that in there as well?
Not on the debt limit. The debt limit requires a majority of state legislatures to increase it. So that brings the argument closer to the people and to places that actually have balanced budget amendments in their state constitutions who are more familiar with being fiscally responsible.
What about the 2/3 necessary for a tax hike?
2/3 is required for an income tax hike or for a sales tax hike or for a VAT, but we don't increase the vote requirement for tariffs or excises. And so what that will encourage is a shift to a more consumption-based tax, which is better for the economy.
Your thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot of complicated questions about whether that is better for the economy. It certainly is regressive, and shifting to tariffs has a lot of potential for getting us into trade wars. This is not something that should be put in the Constitution, locked down like that.
The idea of it going into the Constitution, locked into the Constitution, they're a little concerned about that.
The Bill of Rights is locked into the Constitution. I mean, the women's right to vote is locked into the Constitution. We didn't start that way. See, I view this as a voting issue. It really, at its core, is about whether future generations have a voice when they can't vote.
Long-term financial, future generations, long-term financial sustainability, all of it at play here. Does he have a point?
Again, everything we do affects future generations. What we're doing or not doing right now on the environment affects future generations. He makes a major focus, these 2/3 majorities. What we've seen in states, and to some extent in Congress, when you require supermajorities, you make a few legislators very powerful, and they expect to get paid for their votes, and you put them in a position to demand quite a lot for it. Or to threaten disaster if they don't get what they want.
That 2/3 needed in the House and Senate for a tax hike, is that necessary?
Absolutely, because we have a spending problem. The borrowing is leading to more spending. We don't want to crush the economy with higher taxes, but at the same time, we do want to keep the least bad taxes available, and that's why we do preserve the ability to use excise taxes, which are consumption-based, or tariffs at the current simple majority rate.
If there is wiggle room in here for some of the concerns that the professor has and critics have regarding just the ability for lawmakers and appropriations folks to do what they're supposed to do, if there is wiggle room in there, again, why is this necessary?
Because you have to change the rules of the game. Right now, the rules of the game have an unlimited borrowing capacity put in the hands of elected officials who use it to buy votes, and they buy current votes, and the people paying the bill, future generations, are voiceless.
Respond, please.
Under his proposal, the president would have the ability to unilaterally declare what cuts would be made in the budget. Congress would have 30 days to disagree. That gives the president the ability to coerce members. If you don't vote for my other legislative items, I will zero out all the activities in your district. That's way too much power. It's exactly the trouble we get into putting things in the Constitution.
So if you don't want this in the Constitution, and there doesn't seem to be the political will, according to critics, to get anything close to a balanced budget, how do you assure the future generations that we know what we're doing and we're not messing things up?
Well, there are a number of other measures that don't involve the Constitution. A very sensible one, which we had for a while and ought to bring back, is called pay-as-you-go budgeting on the federal government. If I want to increase spending on something, I have to either cut spending somewhere else or show where the revenues come from. If you want to cut taxes, you need to show where you're going to make up the lost money. We put that in on a bipartisan basis in the 90s. It got us to a surplus as the economy boomed then, and it was dropped to allow for big tax cuts that were not paid for, and that's where we've been in the hole since.
It didn't last because there's no incentive for it to last. Look, we've given elected officials limitless credit cards to use to buy votes. And guess what they do? And every now and then you might get a good policy, but it's not going to last under those incentives.
It sounds like you just don't think politicians are doing a good enough job. They don't know what they're doing, and you can't trust them.
I think that we're getting the government that this system will produce if you give politicians unlimited credit cards.
If you can't trust them, what makes you think that they're not going to find ways to get around this?
Well, we've been vetting this amendment for 6 years. 4 states have joined the compact and have approved ratifying this amendment. The amendment is filling all the gaps. It's doing it right. It's learning from the 49 states that limit debt at the state level. It's not like this hasn't been done before. The federal government is pretty radical in having no limit on borrowing.
Most other major industrial countries also do not have these sorts of limits. States do, but states are not responsible for running the macroeconomy. The federal government is.
But I would imagine you would be concerned regarding accounting gimmicks and other things that would happen if this kind of restriction was in place.
Oh, it's going to be overrun with accounting gimmicks that will simply distort the process, lead to less transparency in government, actually lead to more of the abuses he's talking about. Pay-as-you-go is a simple idea. Let's put pressure on Congress to bring back pay-as-you-go.
Well, the professor's completely wrong because we do use pay-as-you-go in this amendment. The amendment requires all spending to be limited to cash inflow from taxes. You can't cheat that with accounting gimmicks.
All right, we got to stop it right there. Gentlemen, good debate. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
Tuesday on Arizona Horizon, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton joins us to talk about how new immigration actions from the White House are impacting his city. And we'll meet a local principal recognized for turning around a poorly performing school. That's at 5:30 and 10 right here on Arizona Horizon. A couple of good debates tonight. If you want to watch them both again, check us out, azpbs.org/horizon. We'll also have on the website what we plan for in the future, including a special after the State of the Union address tomorrow night back in Washington. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.